In this video, I'll provide an overview of our Part 4 research presentation. So here we are on our home page, and I'm going to click on our weekly modules. And then scrolling down to this week, we're in the week 13 module. It's actually the last chapter of the semester, it's chapter 14. So you have your usual assignments, which are the quiz and homework, but you'll notice that there's no discussion board this week so that you can work on your research project presentations, the Part 4. Note that I also have a survey asking about your availability for a final exam review session. And then I also have week 14 open as well. So here, this link is the video that you're watching right now. Also my contact information if you need help with your project. And then here's the link to the Part 4 assignment. So this is where you'll upload your presentation that's due on Sunday, May 5th. I've also got some reminders that you can still catch up on homework. So during the week while you're working on your project presentation, maybe you want to do your homework as well. And then I also have an extra credit assignment regarding a newspaper article analysis if you choose to partake in it. So let's go ahead and click on part number 4. This is the research presentation. So here are the instructions for part 4 research presentation. So recall that you've already completed parts 1, 2, and 3 of the project, as well as discussion boards that help you create that content. So what you're going to do is take all of that content you've already done and put it together into a final presentation. Your presentation should be about 5 to 7 minutes long. These are just guidelines. If it goes over by a bit, that's no problem at all. And I also have 2 videos here that explain how to make a presentation with voice narration. So if you have access to PowerPoint, this video here will show you how to record your narration over the slides so that as someone watches the slides, they can hear your explanation of the content. If you don't have access to PowerPoint, you can use Google Slides, and there's instructions here on how to do a presentation with voiceover as well. Now, if you don't have access to a recording device, you're welcome to come in during my office hours or to schedule a meeting with me when it's convenient for you to come on in and use my mic and record on my computer. So I've had lots of students do that before in the past, and you're more than welcome to do that too. So the purpose of this project has been to provide you experience in preparing a presentation using statistical analysis that you conducted yourself. So I'm happy to review any draft presentations or answer any questions as you work through it. You don't have to do this all by yourself. I'm here for you. Just reach out whenever you need any kind of assistance. And so your presentation is going to be generally organized as follows. The first piece is an executive summary. This summarizes the essential elements in your presentation. So if we click right here, I have an explanation on what an executive summary is. It helps the reader understand the project. It briefly introduces the purpose of the report or the presentation. It summarizes the analysis findings and recommendations. So here's our structure. I've color-coded this so you can see how the structure matches with the example down below. Your executive summary should state the purpose, the method, a bit of your descriptive statistics, your conclusions or your findings from your inferential statistics, and then the recommendations. So the example here states that the purpose of this project was to examine key trends in Montreal's tourism using Airbnb data. Data on price per night, listings by neighborhood, and accommodations from the Inside Airbnb website were analyzed. The results indicate Les Plateaux Mont-Royal and Ville Marie have the highest number of Airbnb listings in Montreal. This study concludes that Ville Marie is a densely populated upscale neighborhood which is well suited for a bike tour business. It is recommended that a bike tour business be open in Ville Marie with a focus on local wine bars, microbreweries, and craft beer bars. So this is a high-level overview of what an audience should expect when they go through the presentation with you. So let's go ahead and click back. The next part of your presentation will be the introduction. So this will give background to why you chose your city and a little bit about the location. You'll share your business idea that inspired your data analyses. Again, you'll want to explain why this city and why this business idea, including any secondary sources. So recall you had to do some research online about your city or about your business to support why this is a good idea. This is based on your project part 1 that you did at the start of the semester. So I would recommend going back to your part 1 and pulling that content to create your presentation. That way you don't have to create it from scratch. You've already done the work. You're just now putting it into a slide deck. The next part is the main body. So this is where you're going to present all the information that you've collected and your data analyses from parts 2 and 3 of the project. So you need to have at least one table or figure, so like a chart of some kind, that has quantitative data for descriptive statistics. So recall maybe you made a pie chart or a bar chart or some kind of chart or table that had some descriptive statistics. You also need to include at least one analysis of the sample using inferential statistics. So you did this in part 3. This is where you put together a confidence interval estimate and a hypothesis test. You only need at least one hypothesis test. I've had students in the past do 2 for good practice. You're welcome to do 2 if you want, but at a minimum, you need to do 1. Now, the next part is our discussion. So this is the conclusions, the key takeaways regarding the information in your body from your data analysis. These are the decisions or the business implications that you can make about the findings. And again, you want to include secondary sources to support your data. So I want to see like a merge of your data analyses from the Airbnb data and your research from outside sources that show that your project exists in the broader world and not just in a silo by yourself. Last but not least, of course, you have to have references. So you'll list the sources for any of your secondary sources. And if you incorporate any textbook content too, that's great. You just want to make sure to list it. Now, if we scroll down, here I have an example of a presentation with narration. So one that I've put together. You can open it up, and once you hit play on it, you can hear my narration of the assignment. If you click on this, which I'm going to show you shortly, this is a template of the presentation that you're welcome to use. And then if we scroll down further, this is the rubric for the research presentation. So this is how you'll be evaluated. And so you could see you're being graded on the executive summary, the intro, the body in terms of your data analyses. And you can see it's heavily weighted on that, on your data analyses, your discussion, your delivery as well. This is the same rubric that's found at the end of your syllabus. So if you have any questions on the rubric itself, just let me know, but use it as a guideline to remind yourself what you need to include and what counts as a exceeds standards versus meets standards or needs improvement. So go ahead and click on the download template presentation so you can see what that looks like. So here's the template. So you can see there's a title page. Now, you're welcome to change the background and the formatting so that we don't all have the same style of presentation. So you can change that to your desire. Add pictures from your city, anything to make it interesting at all. So make sure you come up with a title. You include your name and the semester. Here's the slide for the executive summary. So again, I remind you that it's a 5-sentence paragraph that explains the purpose, method, a little bit of your descriptive and inferential statistics, and your recommendations. Here's a slide for your introduction. Again, mention which city, your business idea, and reasons for choosing the city. So again, you're mentioning any secondary sources that support your project. Here's the methodology slide. We want to explain where the data came from. So remember, you did this in part 2 of the project where you talked about where the data originally started and then how many hands touched it and how you eventually got it. You're going to explain your population of interest. So what kinds of listings were you analyzing? Were you analyzing all listings, just the ones that were apartments, just the ones that were for 3 people? You'll want to explain that so people know that the data you had was of a certain kind. What were the variables of interest that you studied, right? Did you study price, cleaning fees, the number of accommodations, cancellation policy? You want to inform the audience what your variables were. And then you'll want to explain any potential issues. Again, you did this in part 2 where you highlighted some of the concerns about the data. Maybe your data might be outdated, there were some blanks, there were some errors. And so you want to be upfront with an audience on the imperfections of your data, and that's okay. So the next slide, this is for your descriptive statistics. So you'll insert any charts or tables here. Some folks might have lots of charts, so you might have multiple descriptive statistics slides. That's great. Or you might just have the one. Remember, at a minimum, you need one. And then you'll have to explain what it means. You can't assume that just because someone sees your chart, they know what it means. here you'll have a slide for the confidence interval estimate. So in my example, if you look at the other slide deck, you'll want to include your descriptive statistics table. So that's where we went into data analysis toolpack and ran some analyses on price or other variable of interest, and then came up with a confidence interval estimate. You put this in a discussion board, and you also put it in your part 3. So hopefully this sounds familiar. And then here's the slide on inferential statistics, specifically your hypothesis test. I have 2 slides, one for a hypothesis test of a mean and one for a hypothesis test of a proportion. So you have to choose which kind of hypothesis test that you did. Recall you did a discussion board on it and then you put it into your part 3. So you should already have this, and you should have gotten feedback from your peers and from me. So really all you're doing here is presenting the pieces here so that in the slides you'll have all the information for the audience to review. So you can just fill in the blank, change out the numbers. This hopefully also looks familiar. It looks a lot like the worksheet that I provided on how to do a hypothesis test. So you can look at your worksheet, look at your discussion board. You have all this information already. You just got to put it into the slides. If you decide to do both, great, but you only have to do one. Here's the slide where you'll discuss the business implications. So this is the so what of your analysis. What kinds of decisions can you make for your business? And again, include any outside research to support this. Was your data consistent with what is going on in the outside world that you found on Google? Or perhaps it's very different, and that's okay too. And then here's the last slide on references, where you'll include any of the links to any outside research that you did, like on Google. So I also have examples of presentations that you can take a look at in the research project examples and templates page. You'll actually see I've got several. I've got a couple in Barcelona, Dublin, Portland, and a couple in Portland. These were popular locations. And so you can watch and look at examples of how other students have done this presentation. Again, I still have a link to my example of a presentation on Montreal with narration. Here's the rubric as well, posted again if you want to see it in a document as opposed to at the bottom of the assignment. So if you have any questions at all as you're working on the project, please contact me at any time. Email, office hours, I will help in any way that I can.